All right, so we have a problem with an electric vehicle, and it accelerates at a rate of 2 meters per second squared in a straight line until it reaches 20 meters per second. Then it slows down at a different constant rate until it stops. So we want to know how much time it takes to take this whole trip and how far it goes during the trip. So the thing with these problems is I wanted to give you kind of a hint on how to even get started if you haven't done these before. So I'm just going to tell you right now, the first thing you want to do is you want to get all your equations lined up. Okay, we did all the physics in class. The truth is, when you have equations, when you have problems with acceleration, there's not a lot of physics to do. This is what we have. There's not much more to say once you've explained that you're at constant acceleration. Once you come up with these equations, it's really a matter of then just kind of doing the algebra. And that's not very exciting in one sense, but in another sense, it's very reassuring because you don't have to think about all the concepts. You just need to make sure you line up all your numbers right. So what I'm going to recommend we do is first get your equations lined up. Okay? So equations. Then get a picture. So here's the deal. We're going to actually have this thing go. We're going to split this into two parts. First, I'm moving forward with a positive acceleration, so I start off with an acceleration of 2 meters per second squared. That's for the first part. And then for the second part, I am moving forwards, but the acceleration wants to stop me. It wants to push back against me in the negative direction, in the backwards direction, so I have a negative 1 meters per second squared acceleration. Here, my v is, my v1 final is 20 meters per second, and that's the same as my V2 initial. Now my V2 final is 0, and my V1 initial is 0. I don't know my times. I don't know what T1 is, and I don't know what T2 is. I know that my starting position when I begin is 0, but I don't know what my final x1 position is. So those are my unknowns. So what I'm going to basically do is now I want to try to do the first part, which is let's do the accelerating part till we get to 20 meters per second. I'm going to give you one hint. When they don't give you time, if time is not given, I always go for the easy equation, v squared equals v naught squared plus 2a x minus x naught. Let's see where this leads us. So I know I have a final speed of 20 meters per second for part 1. It starts at the speed of 0 plus 2 times 2 times x minus 0. So I guess what I'm going to end up getting is the how far it goes in the first part. So I'm going to end up getting, when I simplify this, 100 meters for x1 final. Awesome. Now let's just go ahead, since we're here, and get the time for part 1. So this is just for the first part of the trip. So I have v equals at plus v naught. Why not? Why am I choosing that equation? Because it's easy, and I'm lazy. So I have 20 equals 2 times the time plus my initial speed of 0. So my time to get there is 10 seconds. Awesome. Now let's take a look at the second leg of the journey. So what I'm going to do is this. I'm going to do a reset. I'm going to call x2 initial 0. x2 final is unknown. v2 initial is 20 meters per second. And v2 final is 0. I don't know the time. So let's go ahead and just solve some things. So maybe we can get the time since we want to get that. So v2 equals a2t plus v naught for the second thing. So we know we end up at 0. Our acceleration is negative 1. We have a time t that's unknown, and we started off with a speed of 20. So our time to slow down is 20 seconds. So the first thing we can do is we can add our times, and we get that t total is 30 seconds. The next thing we can do now is we can go ahead and get how far we go. So let's use v squared equals v naught squared plus 2a x minus x naught. We're talking about v2 initial, and x2 minus x initial 2. So we have here 0 equals 20 squared plus 2 times -1 plus x2 minus 0. So when we simplify that out, we're actually going to end up getting that x2 is 200 meters. So my x total ends up being 100 plus 200, which is a big total of 300 meters covered. So the key, write down equations, draw a labeled picture, plug in numbers, and solve for whatever you can solve for.